Hello, everyone. My name is Audie of BellyRhythm, and welcome to Conversations with Raqs Stars, where we interview and enjoy performances of some of the leading belly dancers in our community. This evening's guest will be Tarik Sultan. He started his career in the late 1980s and has traveled all over the world teaching and performing. Let's take a moment to enjoy one of his performances. Tarik Sultan, welcome so much to the show. I'm so glad you can make it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great. So tell me, how did you get into the world of belly dance?
Well, initially, what got me interested was music. Like I wasn't really interested in dance initially.
Hmm.
Um, I'd been listening to the music for a very long time. And eventually, I kind of got the idea that I wanted to learn how to dance to it.
Okay.
And so I started taking classes. And But to be honest, I really didn't learn how to dance in the classes. What it was is that I got to see what the movement vocabulary was.
Uh-huh.
And so then what I did is I went home and I was like, okay, if I want my body to move that way, what do I have to do?
Mm.
So I would tinker around with it at home until I figured it out. And then when I came to the dance class, it was it gave me the opportunity to just, use what I had been working on, you know.
Right.
But when I got to Egypt was when I really saw like the dance in its real in its real setting.
Hmm.
And that's when I really, really started to learn, because what I would do is I would just observe the people,
Mm.
and I wouldn't look for entertainment sake. I would look for, analytically. And
Mm.
so I do the same thing. It's like, okay, well, what is it about the quality of this person's movement why I can tell that they're a natural, a native dancer, as
Mhm.
versus somebody who learned it. So I
Mm.
was looking for those qualities, analyzing, and then okay, if I want my body to look like that, what do I got to do? And
Mhm.
so once again, like started playing around with it. Okay, like how is this moving? Like the personality. It's not just the movement, but it's the quality of the movement and how they're interpreting the music. And there's an emotional quality there too.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. So then you would consider your style traditional? Is that the proper term?
Well, yeah. I mean, my style is Egyptian. So I'm not like fusion or
Hmm.
tribal or anything like that.
Hmm.
My motivation is the Egyptian style. That's what I really fell in love with, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
that's what I learned. When I went to Egypt, that's what I was seeing. I was seeing the Egyptian style of dance, and so that's what I gravitated to.
Great. Great. And in your bio, you have this great line. Um, Real dance is an emotional expression through movement. Tell us more about that.
Exactly. Well, this goes back to what I was saying about, Egyptian dance, and what I noticed about Egyptian dance that set it apart from all the other styles, and even the other styles in the region, like, Lebanese or Turkish. When they were dancing, it wasn't just doing movement. Like the Egyptian dancers, whether they're dancing socially or professionally, it's not about, let me show you my technique,
Hmm.
you know? So it's not about like, I can, show you like how I layer all these movements on top of each other. It was expressing their personality, their sense of humor,
Hmm.
but the cue is coming from the music,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So on one level, there's a connection, there's an emotional connection with the music, right? It's like you're listening to the music, but the music brings up emotions inside of you.
Hmm.
And then you're expressing those emotions, or you're interpreting the movements through the lens of those emotions.
Hmm.
And that's really what makes Egyptian dance different than all the other styles.
So to your point, I was having this conversation with some other dancers, and we are talking about Belody and the style of Belody, and how one dancer was saying that since the costume isn't glitzy, since the movements are more subtle, since you're not doing big dramatic movements, it wouldn't be as I guess, as acceptable or palatable to a Western audience. What are your feelings on that?
Um, I don't think so.
Mm.
Um, because a lot of times when I dance, I am dancing melody style. Now, I have to make the distinction. Melody, it depends on what context you're talking about, right?
Mm.
So there's a style of music that is
Mm.
melody, right?
Mm.
And then within that style of music, there is a particular genre um, that we know as melody, or as Rania would call it, melody progression, or they call it tet melody.
Mm.
It starts off slow and then it gradually builds up, but that's one aspect of
Mm.
melody. Then Melody is also talking about the dance style itself,
Mm.
right? So for me, when I talk about dancing melody style, what I mean is dancing in the style of social dance rather than professional stage dance.
Hmm.
So I make the distinction between the social dance style and Raqs Stars, which is the
Right.
theatricalized style, right?
Right. Hmm.
Now, um, within a professional performance, the lines oftentimes get blurred, right? Because you'll have a dancer and she'll come out and she'll do like the Magenzi, right?
Hmm.
Which is like a 20-minute routine. And that's Rakshari. That's the most, what's the word? That's the most theatricalized version, right?
Right.
But then, even then, like within the evening, the music will change, right?
Mhm.
And they'll start playing, like popular music. And so they'll start dancing in the style of, like down home, we in our living room hanging out, dancing for each other.
Mhm.
So, there's not this delineated, delineated classifications happening there
Mhm.
necessarily. I think over here, we get really hung up on classification. We have to classify everything. We got to put everything in a box to understand it. In Egypt, it's a lot more fluid.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a watercolor. You don't have sharp delineations. It's like one thing often bleeds into another thing, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
even when you're talking about music, like here in the States and I guess in the Western world, we have very strict genres of music.
Hmm.
You have your hip hop, you have your R&B, rock and roll, country, western, very rigid boxes. In Egypt, you don't got that. You can have a musician who sings mahriganet, they can sing shabi, they can sing pop, they can sing classical.
Mhm.
You know, depends on whatever the hell they feel like doing in the moment. you know? So
Okay.
it's not that cut and dry that, okay, I only sing this type of music.
Right.
No. It's like, you'll find like a Shabi singer and they'll do like, an Kulthum song. They might do it with a Shabi twist to it,
Mm.
but they're doing it.
Hmm.
Whereas here in the West, it's like, when's the last time you heard a popular artist doing a classical piece of music?
Mm.
You know?
True. Yes. Hmm.
Or a country western.
Right.
They'll do whatever they feel like doing.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it's a lot more fluid. So to answer your question, would Western audiences appreciate melody style? Hell, I was performing, in the nightclubs around New York and New Jersey for well over a decade, and most of what I did was melody style.
Mm.
That
Right.
down home social dance feeling. It depends on the performer.
Right.
Like when you're dancing for a crowd, the number one thing that they want to see is they want to see you having fun.
Mm.
If
Hmm.
you're having fun, they're having fun. And if you're dancing with the intention of making them have fun, you've
Mm.
got them in the palm of your hands. But if you're
Right.
going out there expecting to be, like worshipped, then that's when the eyes start to glaze over. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times dancers do go out there with that mindset that, like, I'm here to be adored.
Mm.
They got cell phones now,
Right.
like they don't want to adore you. They want to be entertained. So when
Right.
I would dance, and this is what I'm saying about Egyptian dance, what makes it different is that emotional expression. I'll go up and I'll play with the audience. I'll goof around with them. If I see them sitting there like, oh, you know, I'll break that fourth wall and I'll start goofing around with them and playing with them,
Right.
and like bring them into the moment.
Uh-huh.
So I'm being an entertainer.
Right. Hmm.
Now, in terms of a formal concert, if people are coming to a formal dance concert, they're coming with the expectation of seeing a dance performance. So they're
Mm.
open to whatever it is that you present to them, and they'll accept it if it's of good artistic quality, like you know what you're
Mhm.
doing. Yeah, you'll have them right there in the palm of your hand.
Mm. Mhm. Wow. It's great to have the context of the culture
Hmm.
to really put things into perspective. I think maybe because we're getting things kind of secondhand, um, that people are saying, "Oh, no, 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 this it has to be like this because this is the way my teacher taught me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it has to be like this." So, but let's take another look at one of your performances and just enjoy the splendor that is Tarik Sultan. Mm,
I haven't gotten anywhere near the amount of opportunities that female
mm,
performers get, and that's because it kind of freaks people out to see a guy dancing in a professional setting within the North African Middle Eastern community, right?
oh,
Um, but you see, the thing is, I initially didn't get into it with the intention of being a performer. I
hmm,
just wanted to dance for fun.
mhm,
But, you know, back then in the 80s, people thought of this dance as being some kind of striptease.
mm.
And the
Still
more I
do.
learned about it, hmm,
Still do. Some people.
well, not as much as they did back
No,
then, though.
not as
You
much,
know,
but
it has
yeah,
gotten a lot better.
yeah.
And, my family was very
Mm,
religious fanatics.
mm,
So I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was legit. So I would take my time and I'd go to Lincoln Center, to the dance research library, and I would go through all the information I could find about
mm,
the dance. And the more I studied, the more that I realized that this really is, it's a valid dance form and it's a valid art form just like any other. And people should really understand that and to see it. And performed, I had to break the ice. Every time I
Right.
performed, it was like breaking the ice all over again because
Hmm.
although they're used to seeing guys dance socially, they're not used to seeing guys in a flashy costume. But
Hmm.
the catch 22 is I'm dancing in the United States, and American people,
Hmm.
they want to see Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, so I have to, I need to satisfy their expectations, and now I got to break the ice with these other people here
Right.
to get them to look past the costume.
Right. Right.
So after like the first 2 minutes, like the first, when I first come out, it's like the WTF is this look on everybody's faces. And then after 2 minutes, 3 minutes goes by, they're like, oh, he's just dancing. And he's actually kind of good, you know. And then I'd have them like in the palm of my hands.
Right. What would you say to a new dancer, male, who wants to get into, who wants to learn? Let's say, first off, they want to learn. Um, w- it's kind of tough, I know, for them to come into a classroom filled with women and a woman instructor, and the idea that a male body doesn't move the way a female body will, and vice versa.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to a new dancer, a new male dancer?
Well, first of all, the movement vocabulary is universal.
Mhm.
The only thing that's really different about a male body and a female body are genitalia, and you're not dancing with that.
Hopefully.
Well, maybe some people are, but most are not.
Right.
So we have the same skeletal structure, we have the same muscular structure, and all the muscles that are used to generate the movements are the same for both sexes. Now, depending on your body shape, the movements are going to look different. And that even goes to, female dancers,
Mhm.
because not all women are shaped the same. So if you have a long, tall,
Mhm.
slim frame, the movements are going to look much different on you than if you have more like a pear shape, you know, or an apple shape, you know. It's going to look different.
Mhm.
So even if you have several men, the
Mhm.
movements are going to look different depending on your body shape, right? And some movements may look better on you than on somebody else. So that's the first thing. So
Mhm.
get that out of your head right away.
Okay.
Now, in terms of having role models to look at as men, thank God now there's YouTube, and you
Mhm.
can pull up videos and see guys dancing socially.
Mhm.
You might have to do a lot of digging, but you can find it.
Mhm.
And there are a lot more men participating in the dance arena, in the
Mhm.
professional dance arena, in like festivals and seminars and on the seminar circuit, right?
Right, right.
So you can watch them. You can watch yours truly. You can watch Tito, and there's a lot of other male dancers that are out there.
So thank you so much for sharing your information, your wisdom, your knowledge. And we are going to wrap up the show with another one of your performances. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for joining me. And thank you so much for being with us with another conversation with a rock star. Have a great night. Thank you.
مسافر في الصحراء ومشواري طويل، ايه اللي قصدني اروح عندك وابيع مواويل. انا كنت مسافر في الصحراء ومشواري طويل، ايه اللي قصدني اروح عندك وابيع مواويل. اتاريك مكار رحت شاغلهم ويوم ناديك، اتاريك مكار رحت شاغلهم ويوم ناديك. ونسيت مواويلي بقيت انت لوحدك موال، ونسيت مواويلي بقيت انت لوحدك موال. ما تبطل تمشي بحنية، ما تبطل تمشي بحنية، لا يقوم زلزال.
To make the distinction between the people and the dance,
Mm.
because I don't have, unfortunately, a lot of happy experiences dealing with a lot of the people
Yeah,
in the dance scene, from Egypt. They messy as fuck. you know?
it does, and it puts such a bad taste in your mouth. And I've thought of this a couple of times, like, why am I even bothering if
Yeah.
I have to explain myself to the people from where this dance has come from. I have to explain myself to the people in the country that I live in. I have to explain myself to the belly dance community itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a little tiring after a while.
It does, but the way I look at it is we got to do our part so that the generations who come after us don't have to go through this bullshit.
Mm. Hmm.
So that's the way I look at it, and I pray and I meditate a lot.
Right.
You know? And I try to really connect with the love of the music and the dance, which has absolutely nothing to do with their bullshit.
Right.